Hi, this is Kimberly. I do hope you're having a nice weekend. Despite several interruptions today, I did manage to piece together some videos for you that I found interesting. I thought you might find them interesting too. One of which was that Daily Mail did. A very nice young lady. She was on last week, a very good friend to Gabby. And it sounds like she gave her a soft place to land from some smelly, mildewed laundry and provided quite a respite for her from her abusive so-called fiance. My wish is that what will come out of this, out of the Gabby Petito case, is that women everywhere, young women, older women, teenagers, whoever you are, will leave a toxic relationship. It happens all the time. We just don't usually hear about it. It doesn't have to reach this point to be dangerous to you and to think, hey, maybe I should get out. If the thought has ever crossed your mind, do it. It could range from your life being in danger to they just make you feel bad about yourself. That is dangerous. A romantic relationship isn't supposed to make you feel bad about yourself, to scare you, or to make you feel as though you just can't be yourself. I imagine if you're in this spot, you have been beaten down to the point that you feel you can't leave. Do whatever you can to get help. People will help you sneak out of a relationship if that is what it takes. From people you know to a woman's shelter, there's help everywhere. It doesn't have to be people you know. Maybe the people you know don't understand. I'm so pissed at that traffic stop. Could those flippin' police officers not see that Gabby was beside herself? She was having a nervous breakdown. I'm so sick of people saying they're there to the abusive partner and being sympathized with. Oh, this is what you have to put up with from the woman or man that is being overly emotional. Fuck that shit. I can't believe that we are still like this as a society. It seems we've barely graduated past the point of women being sent to a male doctor by their husband back in the day to be given an orgasm to bring her out of her hysteria. That just pisses me the fuck off. I am not kidding. Look it up. That used to happen. It probably still happens. You know, the way people sympathize with Chris Watts for what he quote unquote had to put up with from Shanann and her shenanigans. Look behind the fucking curtain, people. Stand outside the van and listen to what the hell is really going on. Who the real victim is. The police sent her off on her fucking own. She was crying and said she didn't know how to drive the van, and they're just standing there handing her the keys. They put him up in a hotel, or took him to a hotel. Why didn't they take her to an undisclosed location for the night instead of him? I know he would have been out looking for her, but they could have gotten her a counselor to talk to her that night. This could have turned the whole fucking bullshit around. Maybe they should have both been arrested. At least she would have been in a safe place, meaning away from him. Possibly she would have been given some help. How much plainer could she have been that she needed fucking help? She's barely an adult. I need help from an adult. I think they need more training. I know I said, while I'm ranting, I know I said I was going to finish up the letters from Christopher bullshit, but Scribbles is trying to come after me by providing false information, thinking she can't be tracked. That's right, Sunshine, I am on to you. I suggest you get in contact with me. I've tried getting in contact with you with your fucking false bullshit you gave to YouTube. Quit your bullshitting, quit your lying, quit hiding. You're not as slick as you think you are. Haven't I proved that over and fucking over? Bring what little you've got, sassy pants. That's all I've got to say about that, so I will go now, and I'm sorry I broke off into a rant. Some of you like it, some of you don't, and of course, as always, I have provided timestamps. So I have a lot to do today and I feel like shit. Plus, I have to celebrate my birthday in 4 days. I want to feel good for that. I don't know when or where, but I'm going to do that. Now, let me put on my nice voice. Please enjoy today's selection of stories that I have gathered for you on one of our latest Angels in Heaven. Brian, I bet you thought no one knew about the disgusting Laundrie hiding behind your black mask and inside that torn-up van that Gabby made so nice for the both of you. Well, the whole world knows now about your bullshit. We also know about that beautiful, talented, artistic angel that you did not deserve and did not have the right to call your girlfriend, much less fiancé and future wife. But now the rest of the world knows about Gabby, and we love her and appreciate her. The world is on her side, and we will make sure you pay. You will wish you would have been slowly eaten alive by an alligator. Much love and peace. Thank you for listening.
Rose, how did you meet Gabby?
Roughly 2 years ago, I got a message on Bumble for friends, and it was, you seem so cool, I want to be your friend, can we be friends? And I was like, of course, and from there we started hanging out every day, and it's kind of weird to say I met her on Bumble for friends. People always laughed at us for that, but hey, glad she came into my life.
And how was your friendship? What did you do?
Well, our favorite thing was this ice cream shop that unfortunately I just found out yesterday closed down. But that was our first go-to, and then other than that, we were pretty just kind of chilling all the time, you know, just hanging out and talking, and she came everywhere with me. We joked around and said she was my, what do we call her? Emotional service human, because everywhere she went, just always cheering me up, you know.
And how soon after you first met her did you meet Brian?
It was about the second time we hung out. I went over to her house, either second or third time, and he was hanging out there, and yeah, that's when I first met him.
What was their relationship like? Or what is their relationship like?
Thank you. On the outside, he's very charismatic, so it seems very loving, and there's no doubt in my mind that she loves him, and I know that, and from how I've always seen it, he loves her. Of course, like any relationship, there was arguments, and she'd come stay at my house when there was arguments just to get away from it, you know, and I didn't ask much questions, because if she wanted to tell me, she could tell me, you know.
How many times did she come and stay with you?
I couldn't give a number, but I mean, within the first year, I mean, I want to say at least 7 to 10 times.
Do you remember any one particular incident that she was particularly upset about?
Yeah, well, we were supposed to go line dancing. It was ladies' night, and her drive is about 30 minutes to me, and halfway there, she realized her ID was missing, and so it caused a really big argument because Brian just didn't want her to go out, and it was a jealousy issue, and it caused a huge argument between them, and she came over and cried and just talked to me about what happened and told me all that she was comfortable telling me.
Did you feel that their relationship was getting more problematic?
I do believe that their relationship, as they kept going on, was getting a little, problematic. I mean, just seemed like there was more and more arguments, and everything she did, I feel like, you know, he thought was wrong, and even as she said in the body cam, he didn't even support her with her blog, which that's not what a fiance or boyfriend does. They support you with anything you want to do, and that in itself, you know, made me feel like it just continued to get worse.
Exclusive statement to Fox and Friends. Gabby's friend Rose Davis said in part, she is a bright light and a remarkable human. She did not deserve this. She will be remembered forever.
What are we out here doing today?
Well, we're out here searching for Brian. We're covering this area as well as we can. These guys are working really hard. They come back every day fresh, ready to go, and it's hot. It's hot, it's wet out there, but they're working really hard. Well, the warrant doesn't change anything for us. We're working as hard to find him now as we did on day one. We've been deploying all the resources that we had available to us, all the staff, and these guys, their drive to find him on day one is the same as today, regardless of the warrant. The staff that are out there searching, they get home and they're exhausted. They're out here working as hard as they can. And I tell you, the only break they have during the day is when they come back to get a bite to eat, and then they go back into the wilderness and they hit it hard again. When they get home, they shower, wash off the dirt from the day, and that's probably about the amount of energy that they have before they have to wake up and come back out for the next day.
But it's wearing. I mean, this is wearing on everyone.
This is wearing on everyone. Everybody has a level of stress. Everybody has the drive, and that's really what's carrying us through, is the drive to try to find Brian and try to put closure to this investigation.
What are the types of areas we're looking through?
We're looking through wooded areas. We're looking through bodies of water. We're looking through swampy areas, and we're deploying the resources to be able to do that. We have air units, we have drones, we have the swamp buggies, air boats, multiple law enforcement agencies, we have ATVs, we have UTVs, and we have officers on foot as well. So we're deploying every resource to get through any terrain that we encounter in our search areas.
Why is it important? I mean, we're certainly hearing a lot of feedback that we're wasting our time. Why is it important that we do this?
So what I would say to the public is there are many, many more resources we're deploying in here other than the search efforts that we're seeing here today. We have investigative means, we have other technology. Agencies are issuing search warrants for data, whether it be social media or some other investigative means, and then we do the search. So we're not wasting our time out here. We are doing our due diligence to find Brian and an area that intelligence had led us that he could possibly be in. And it's upon us to make sure that we search this area as best as we can, as massive as it is, with the resources that we have to try to find Brian.
75 officers from 16 different agencies were on the ground looking, and air traffic was banned over that 24,000-acre Carlton Reserve.
The search commander said today new people from additional agencies have now joined the search.
How does that help? It's tremendous. This is a tremendous, massive land. The more people, the more effective we are.
If you were hiking each and every day, you could be by now long gone from the Carlton Reserve. Local outdoorsmen say theoretically one could survive in here for days with proper backcountry skills. Most importantly, a water filter device to tap into the standing water. According to the New York Post today, according to a former co-worker of Laundrie's, he was very well versed in surviving out in the woods, saying one time he bragged about spending 6 weeks by himself out in the wild, surviving only on cheese and peanut butter crackers.
Most people are incapable of functioning in the world for very long without leaving some evidence of their very existence. You know, the very fact that they are searching in a swamp in Florida, as you mentioned, filled with alligators and snakes and all other manner of incorrigible creatures, you know, that's not a place that's hospitable to human life. And the fact that they had cadaver dogs in there, I think yesterday, and they've got divers and they've got sonar, they're not looking in places where people are going to be camping. So if you look at what they're doing and how they're searching, Trace, it tells me that they are not looking to recover Brian Laundrie alive. And we already know, of course, that Gabby is unfortunately deceased. So if there's ever going to be any prosecutions in this case, it's going to depend on the answers that law enforcement gets from interviewing third parties to see if there's anybody else who may have helped perpetrate any crimes or conceal any crimes or otherwise impede the investigation.
Is there an instance where his parents could face criminal charges?
Well, what concerns me is, from what I understand from the information that's come out, is that they picked up his car at the Carlton Reserve. Now, why would they go and pick that up without knowing where he was? They had to have some kind of information to go pick up that car. And there's maybe they just said that, and that they're going to misdirection type of case, but they definitely are should be interviewed, and they should be probably brought before the grand jury to find out what they know about this. It doesn't seem like they're overly cooperative at this point.
We did see Laundrie's parents leave their home with police following them. Their attorney says the couple went to Orlando, but he didn't say why.
Police in Florida are searching a nature preserve. What would drive them there after an initial search came up empty?
Well, one of the things they might have is, the use of canines, where canines might have picked up a scent and led them there, and they went to the location, they didn't find anything, and maybe the dogs picked up another scent. Florida has these underwater teams because of all the swamp area, and it's a peninsula, so it's surrounded by water on the three sides, and they're used to these kinds of searches. The problem that you deal with here is that if the person did commit suicide and they're in one of these swampy areas, we know that there are wildlife like alligators and everything else that could, hamper this type of search.
The FBI's involvement, their role, are they supporting the Florida police, or would they actually be the lead agency on this?
Because you have an interstate crime, they're going to be the lead this investigation. And the fact that, we're talking about some smaller departments, the FBI brings a lot of tools and a lot of, personnel to be able to carry on an investigation that's this expansive. So they're more than likely it's going to be their case. I don't think it'll be prosecuted federally, whoever the person is that they arrest for this homicide. But the issue that you come deal with, you welcome any law enforcement parties, specifically the federal ones, because like I said before, they have lots of equipment and lots of personnel, and they can bring to bear even the technology that can be required to solve a case like this.
How does the FBI approach a case like the Gabby Petito case?
Well, this is the type of case this is like an all hands on deck type of case. It is very, very unusual to have this type of case to be looked at, because it's such a wide range of area where it occurred, from all the way up to Utah down to Florida. So I guarantee you they have all kinds of special agents, task force people working it, and all the Sarasota office and Tampa office. I guarantee you they have almost every agent available, and plus support personnel working the case.
Gabby Petito's death has been ruled a homicide. Does that change what the FBI is doing with this investigation?
Absolutely not. What they have to do is that they're working on the forensics, first of all, with the body and where it was located, to find out any information that they can obtain from that. And plus, now they have to. It's like a two-pronged type of investigation. Now I have to look at the parents and where they were living, get the forensics there, and check out the backgrounds and see who their friends are, and especially when they're looking for Brian Laundrie. That's an intensive investigation there. I've worked cases like this in a working organized crime, and it was very difficult to find some of these people. And you have to look through the relatives, friends, do a really comprehensive investigation that really looks at virtually all aspects of their lives, from friends and families.
I think probably they should have made an arrest, because, they had an eyewitness who says that they saw Brian using physical violence against Gabby, and they may have even had some other information that she was also involved in some type of mutual combat. But at a bare minimum, that investigation on the side of that road developed, I believe, probable cause that would have been sufficient to charge one or both of them was some type of domestic violence. Under the totality of the circumstances, I think the law enforcement officers would have been on sound legal grounds to have made that arrest. And of course, I'm not blaming the Utah police or anything like that, but of course, if there had been an arrest made, and under the law out there in not only Utah, but in most states, there's a heavy presumption in favor of making an arrest in a domestic violence case when it's a close call. And the reason for that is so that parties are definitely separated from each other when tensions are high. And we know, if nothing else, that these two had at least at times, a tension-filled and tumultuous relationship. I think it could have changed the trajectory of things, because what they did, if you look back at what happened, is they suggested, I think, that Gabby sleep in the van and that Brian Laundrie go into a hotel, and then there was no other mechanisms in place to sort of guarantee that the two were physically separated when tensions were high. And that is the reason why law enforcement, in most instances, when they investigated domestic violence case, if they have probable cause, chances are they're going to take someone to jail, because that guarantees an immediate separation of the parties.
Petito's father says Laundrie was always respectful towards his daughter, but experts tell me that while a relationship may seem perfect from the outside, things like isolation from family and friends, such as the young couple's extended vacation, can be a sign of abuse.
You know, those seemingly happy, exciting, adventurous couples that are young and doing road trips, that's great, but there's always more to the story.
Patricia Hancock has been dealing with domestic violence cases here in South Bend for the past 30 years. And she says the Petito case has many signs of potential abuse. No charges were ever made, with the couple continuing on their journey. And it's something domestic violence counselor Salisha Tate says is very common from victims fearing further abuse.
It could very well be that they are literally scared to death not to leave with that person, right? Because they know or are scared in the sense of knowing the potential reality or perceived reality that they've already experienced.
While Petito's father says there wasn't any telling signs of abuse from Laundrie and that he was always respectful to his daughter, Hancock says the extended period of isolation during a trip on the opposite side of the country from Petito's hometown is a common action for perpetrators of abuse.
Cutting off family supports, isolating them, cutting them off of income, you know, transportation, all that sort of stuff. They get isolated and then they don't have any choices, it seems like.
Although Petito's family wasn't able to identify these signs, and investigators are still looking into whether or not abuse was present in this case, Tate says it's important to be there without judgment for anyone you believe may be a victim.
While giving advice is always welcome, it is a matter of partnering with that person so that they're not being or not feeling as though they're being abused even more.
Well, it could be weeks before we know what led to Gabby Petito's death. As we wait for the final autopsy results, we've learned the coroner has ruled her death a homicide. Now, weeks before Petito died, a 911 caller said he saw a man who was traveling in a white van with Florida license plates allegedly hit a woman in Utah. Petito and her fiancé Brian Laundrie were traveling in a van that matches that description. Laundrie, though, is not charged with any crimes at this time, but investigators are calling him a person of interest in this case. Petito's story has started a conversation nationwide about domestic violence. An analysis by the Violence Policy Center found 92% of women murdered in 2018 were killed by men they knew. So I want to bring in Kirsten Stewart. She is the director of public policy and advocacy at Futures Without Violence, a nonprofit that works to end violence against women and children. Kirsten, thanks for joining us this morning. And, you know, we saw the body camera video of Gabby Petito and Brian Laundrie after police in Utah pulled them over. Petito visibly upset in the video. You see her right there. What was your reaction when you saw this video and you saw her demeanor? And what do you hope that people learn from seeing this story play out on social media almost in real time?
Yeah, thank you, Laura. And thank you so much for taking on this issue and talking about it in the bigger context of domestic violence. My initial reaction, I think, was like everyone else's, just utter heartbreak. Especially now that we, of course, know what happened to her. We feel nothing but grief and sadness for her family. Unfortunately, what happened to her is not all that unusual in America. Domestic violence affects between 1 in 3 and 1 in 4 women. And it's young women like Gabby who are most affected, those 18 to 24. So you saw in her, you saw some of that fear. And that's something that I think is important to hone in on. When we talk about domestic violence, we often think about just the physical violence, but it's important to pay attention to the fear, the concern, the discussion of conflict. When you are a friend or a family member, do you see someone who's afraid? Are they afraid to disagree? Are they afraid of that person? That's one of those big warning signs that we see in that video.
As you mentioned, 1 in 3 women can find themselves in a situation where they're involved in domestic violence. So clearly, Gabby Petito, not the only woman to to have a situation where they end up calling the police or have police arrive and ask them what's going on. What is fueling this domestic violence epidemic?
Well, I think it's really important to know two things. I mean, one, we have made enormous progress in this country in addressing domestic violence. We have seen decreases of about 2/3 in the last, 25 to 30 years. But as you point out, we're starting to see an increase again in severe physical violence, even and in homicides. We don't know for sure yet what happened, but it certainly that's what it seems like the case in Gabby's situation. So we're seeing we certainly think the pandemic may have some contribution to the overall numbers, but I think it's really important that we haven't invested enough in prevention. Somebody doesn't turn 23 and decide it's okay to start physically abusing their partner. People learn early how to treat one another, whether it's okay to use physical violence in a relationship. So we need to start much earlier, helping young people learn how to have healthy relationships. We need to talk about gender norms around how we treat one another. Domestic violence isn't always men abusing women. It can happen in same-sex relationships. It can happen, women can be the perpetrators, but it is most often men who are violent towards their female partners. So we need to really engage men more and also being leaders and role models, right? And changing the social norms.
Kirsten, is there one group or more than one group where domestic violence affects that group more than another?
Yeah, that is one of the important things we've learned over time, which is some of our prevention efforts have been really successful, but not for everybody. So African American women and Native American and Indigenous women experience the highest rates of domestic violence, and particularly severe domestic violence, including homicide. So it's important that we, pay attention to what happened to Gabby. And again, we offer nothing but the deepest sympathies to her family. We also need to know that there's a lot more women out there who are affected. And we really hope the news media will continue to cover this issue, even past the Gabby story.
Kirsten Stewart, thank you. And as a reminder, if you or someone you know needs help, the National Domestic Violence Hotline has counselors available around the clock. The number is 1-800-799-7233.
I am on the edge of the Grand Teton National Park. Let me show you exactly where I am. I'm going to flip the camera around. This is the Bridger Teton National Forest access, Spread Creek Road area on the eastern edge of Grand Teton National Park. I just wanted to show you the scene. A lot of tourists are turning into this area that we are currently at, and park rangers have had to turn them away. But once again, currently park rangers have this camping area closed off. This is the Spread Creek dispersed camping area in the Bridger Teton National Forest, which is the eastern edge of Grand Teton National Park.
Grand Teton National Park is one of the more spectacular landscapes in the United States, with a 40-mile-long mountain range, rivers, lakes, and wetlands that help create the overall splendor of this national park.
This is the Bridger Teton National Forest. Right here at this fence line is where the Grand Teton National Park begins. So you can imagine when investigators first got the call to begin searching this area for the missing 22-year-old Gabby Petito, how difficult the task at hand was.
Her stepfather, Jim Schmidt, made the trip to Wyoming after she went missing to be here closer to the search efforts. On Wednesday, he came to the spot where Petito was found and created a tribute to his stepdaughter, making a cross out of river stones and laying flowers. A crime scene that is a long walk from the main path of the campground.
This is Spread Creek. And beyond that tree line right over there is where the dispersed campgrounds are. That's where people pull up and park to camp for the night. And it's where Gabby Petito's white Ford van was spotted. You can see what a trek it is from that area over these rocks across the creek to the area where her body was found.
The area tucked away behind a grove of trees, hidden away from any casual hiker enjoying the scenery of the creek, a possible contributing factor of why Petito was not discovered for so long.
A federal arrest warrant was issued for Brian Laundrie, but it wasn't for Gabby's death. It was for activities following her death. Now, the warrant alleges he committed debit card fraud between August 30th and September 1st.
Officials say Brian Laundrie used a debit card and a PIN number for accounts that did not belong to him for charges more than $1,000 between August 30th and September 1st.
You walk into a room and she just lit up the entire room. She was always happy, always smiling. You'd never think anything like this would happen to her.
Tori Moretti says she knew Gabby Petito, but many here, like Jody Zambrano, never met the 22-year-old, but were deeply affected by her tragic story.
We all have children, whether you have daughters like I do or you have sons. Everybody's just really upset.
Those emotions were also on display at a roadside mural showing Gabby flanked by angel wings.
My heart is broke. I don't know what to say. God pray for them.
Charlene Gardner left this sign at what has become a memorial in Gabby's honor. Others dropped off angels and flowers and left a piece of themselves.
Gabby was a very sweet, innocent person. I think, like a lot of us, she trusted too much.
Teal ribbons now line the Blue Point streets where Gabby Petito grew up. A family friend and the head of a nonprofit foundation spearheaded the ribbon effort.
We want people to look at the ribbons and remember Gabby. Think of her eyes and how beautiful and vibrant and sparkling she was. Gabby has become America's daughter.
Here on Long Island tonight at 7, people in Blue Point are being asked to light the candles that they picked up yesterday wherever they are in memory of Gabby Petito. A lot of people are doing that in their driveways. People were asked to pick those candles up yesterday between 2 and 6 p.m., but around 2:20, they ran out of candles, and the people I spoke to here say they were not surprised by that one bit because this area always comes together.
It doesn't surprise me, living here my whole life. It doesn't surprise me to see all the people here.
We're all trying to do what we can because we just want to say we're here for you. Our hearts hurt for you, and we'll always be here.
We are all lifting you up. We are all here to support you when you are ready.
Absolutely. That's what it's about. Absolutely, with everything going on, like none of it really matters. Like people matter. Yeah, Gabby mattered.
Services for our sweet Gabby will be held at Maloney Funeral Home in Holbrook on Sunday, September 26th from noon until 5. Thank you for all your support and love.